And I'm back because I watched one more film today. This was Todd Haynes' Wonderstruck. It finally came here to Atlanta. It opened limited on October 20th, and it's taken 3 weeks, I guess that is, to get here to Atlanta. And I really liked it. I have not read the book that it was based on. It's based on a book by Brian Selznick, who also wrote Hugo, which became the Martin Scorsese film Hugo a few years back. Much like Hugo, it is about children finding themselves sort of adrift in the adult world a little earlier than they often are, and trying to navigate that and find out about their parentage and deal with being an orphan and all kinds of things that make you grow up a little too fast. It stars three kids that I have not seen, I think, in much before. It was Jaden Michael, Oaks Fegley, and Millicent Simmons. Oaks Fegley was actually on Boardwalk Empire for a hot minute, but I don't think I've seen Millicent in anything. I'm looking at her filmography right now. I have not seen her in anything, so there you go. And then also in the film is Julianne Moore and briefly Michelle Williams. Michelle Williams is always good. Julianne Moore, the face for silent cinema. So it takes place in two times, 1977 and 1927. In 1977, we're following Ben, whose mother has just passed, as he tries to discover who his father was and where he belongs in the world. In 1927, you think that Rose, played by Millicent Simmons, is trying to go see her favorite movie star and leave her father behind and go off into New York City. There's more to that, but I don't really want to spoil it because I did not catch what was happening until it happened. Also, if you read about this film or look at cast lists, it sort of spoils some of the things that I was not expecting. I am like, I never follow. Like, I always am surprised. Let's put it that way. Like, I am not a detective, and I always am surprised. And then I go, oh, that was great. And so a lot of times, I remember many times as a kid, my dad would figure out what was happening in a movie, and he'd turn to me and tell me, and I'd be like, stop, I hadn't figured it out yet. And this was one of those movies that I think maybe other people probably caught what was happening faster, and I was just so wonderstruck, if you will, that I did not catch what was happening. And I really enjoyed how the two parts of the film intertwined at the end. I loved the 1927 section so much because it's filmed like silent cinema, and Todd Haynes watched a whole bunch of Murnau and King Vidor and some of these other great silent film directors to work to sort of understand their filmic technique and the way in which they tell stories. And you can really see it in the way that half of the film is filmed. The other half feels like a 70s film, as it should. I also thought Carter Burwell's score really felt like a score you would hear on a silent film if you were to go to someplace like Pordenone Silent or the San Francisco Silent Film Festival, where they hire generally new musicians, and a lot of these new musicians have created new scores for these silents. And it sounds to me like Todd Haynes was a fan of some of those more funky scores and had Carter Burwell listen to those scores and then emulate them. So it truly felt like seeing a silent film in a cinema the way I love it when I go to like Pordenone or the San Francisco Silent. So fans of Pordenone and silent film will really love this, I think. It's been sort of considered a lesser Haynes by a lot of his fans, which I don't believe in lesser films, so it's great. And I'll take anything Todd Haynes wants to give me, But I loved following these kids. I particularly liked Jaden Michael's character because I felt sort of, I felt his what am I trying to say? I felt his isolation the most strongly of all of the three kids. I also would love to hear what people who are deaf and or who live with deaf people thought of this film, because I there were some moments, like a moment where the Rose character is deaf and she goes to see these silent films. By the way, Julianne Moore looking just like Lillian Gish in The Wind, and then the theater's about to turn into sound theater because it's 1927 and they're slowly starting to turn into sound theaters. And you see this look in her face like, oh my God, because now you know she can't hear the film. And and I had never really thought about what that transition meant for deaf audiences before, and how that took sort of the accessibility of films away from a certain section of the population. So a film like this that is like 90% silent, what does that mean and what does that do? And I think that's great. So let me know if you have thoughts on that. This is Todd Haynes' Wonderstruck. It's from 2017. It's limited in theaters right now. It's in a couple of theaters around in Atlanta area. It's probably in New York and LA still. Definitely check it out.